All right, here we go. We've worked our way across the button bar. We read carefully the introduction. We made all the necessary pages. And we added the zip folder, the menu and the header. We put all our snippets in. Now comes a tedious part, but I think you're going to enjoy this. Let's go to Going Responsive and go to Media. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make this site so that as the screen grows and shrinks, it will also reformat to look good on all devices. So this is key to your future, so pay attention. First thing we're going to do is we're going to create this media CSS. What's going to go on the media CSS is all the styles that will change according to the device size. Now, we'll make that real clear. Copy this, go to Dreamweaver, open up a new file. Doesn't matter, because we're going to delete it. Okay, let's save this as media CSS. File, save as media CSS. In our root folder, make sure it's in the root folder. Here's my demo. This is in the root folder. Now, if you look closely, what's going on here is that for every width of the device that people will be viewing your site on, there will be a different set of CSS. So, looky, between 960 and 3000, all the CSS that will reconfigure the site to that size will go here. When the device width is between 768 and 959, the CSS is going to go here. When it goes between 480, which would be like an iPad, this is where the CSS will go. And when it gets between 0 and 479, that'll be our phone size. That will go here. Okay, what it's basically saying is that if the screen is between 960 and 3000, do all the CSS behind this. It's sort of like if, then. If this exists, then do this. So let's begin. We're going to go to our style CSS and go to where your divs that you just created for your custom theme are. So there's a container. We did that together. And down to the footer. Copy that. Go to the media screen and paste it in the first media screen, which is 960 to 3000. So the first thing we should do is look and see which rules will not be affected by the size of the screen. For example, let's look at the container. The background image. No matter what size the device is, the background image will always be bg.jpg. Well, that was declared in the style.css right here. So we don't have to repeat it here because it will not change. It will change the size, but it will not change the background image as it goes from 960 to 768 to 5. It'll always be bg.jpg. Now, the width is going to change. When the screen is 968, it's going to be 968 pixels. So that's going to change according to the width of the media or the device that people are looking at it on. Now, the margin right, auto, margin left, well, that's declared in style CSS, and it will not change no matter what size of the width. Your page is always going to be centered, so we can get rid of that. Okay, so we can see that the container width will change according to the device. Well, let's look at the header. Let's see, the background image, well, that's always going to be header. And so it was declared in style CSS. We can get rid of that. But the height of the header will change as it gets smaller. So we better leave that. How about the navigation background color? Well, that's always going to be that green. So let's take that out. But the height of the nav will change. So we better leave that in. How about left bar? Left bar, float. No, it's always going to float. How about the section? Float, that's always going to float left. And the right bar also is going to float. So that will not be affected by the size of our screen. So let's just delete all of that. Uh-oh, I left a bracket. That would have goofed me up. Now the footer. The background image is always going to be footer, no matter what size. So I'm going to get rid of that. Let's see, clear both. Well, that's not going to change according to the size of the screen, so I can get rid of that. What about the height of the footer? Well, that will change. When we get to the phone and the iPad, the height of the footer is going to change. So let's take a look. Let's save this. And let's move it to the, okay, that's the media CSS. Oh man, make sure you grab the right file. Okay, I don't see it, so I can right click and I can hit refresh, and then I should see my media. Here's my media CSS. I'm going to move it over, and let's see our beautiful site. Okay, we're going to style the widgets later on, so don't worry about that. Okay, everything is great. So let's move it down to 768. Oh, nothing changed. So now we got to do the next width. So let's go back to our media CSS, and everything that we did for 960, we'll copy that, move it down to 768. And now we want our container to be 768 pixels. So I'm going to change that. 768. So if I look at it, I'm going to save it and move the media CSS to the web. When I take a look at it now, we can see that at 768, the container is going to change size. Alright, wait a minute, it didn't oh, the connection was closed. Alright, listing successful. Let's see, it did an FTP, so it did this time. Okay, so here's 960. 768, you see how it got smaller? Because now the width, as soon as it gets to as soon as it gets smaller than 960, it jumps to this if it's between 768. But we can also see that the header is far too high, because we're beginning to see the header repeat. So let's shrink it down. I don't know, let's see, 768. Let's see what that would be. Let's reduce it down to, I don't know, 140. Let's just guess there. FTP it up. You see how tedious this can get. So I'm going to refresh it. So at 768, oop, it should go up a little bit more. So let's make it 100 and, I don't know, 130. That's probably a good guess. But you can see I'm just guessing. I'm sure there's a mathematical formula here. Okay, so now the nav bar is up. So you can see that as the header shrinks, or as the device shrinks, so does the header. Good. Okay, what about the footer? Ooh, the footer has to go down too, because it's way too high. So I'm going to go down to the footer. So let's see, since I reduced that, I'm going to guess, I don't know, 160. Let's see if 20 pixels will help. So basically we're working on the smaller 768. There we go. Okay, so you can see that as it grows and shrinks. Okay, now we're not going to pay attention to the widgets until a little bit later, and the position of the buttons. We're just looking at how everything lines up. Okay, now we go down to 480. So let's go to what we did for 768. Let's grab all of this that we created, copy it, go down to 480, paste that in, so we know our container is going to be 480, but we don't know. Okay, so 480 is half of 960, so I am going to guess that we could probably make this half of 160, so let's just kind of guess there, and maybe 20 here. Yeah, let's make the nav a little bit smaller at 480, and the footer, let's say 40. Yeah, that makes sense because the footer was 80. Okay, so let's move it up and let's see how it looks on 480. So here's 768. When it gets down to 480, did I change the header? Yeah, 480. Maybe I didn't move up to right file media. Oh, it just wasn't doing it yet. Okay, it should be there now. Okay, so there's 480, 768, and 960. So you can see it is growing and shrinking accordingly, just as we planned. Let's see how the footer looks. Footer looks pretty good. That was a pretty good guess. Okay, and notice how the nav is going to get skinny or shorter when it gets to be 480. Let's do one more, and then I got a little surprise for you. Yes, you deserve a surprise. I'm going to grab the 480, copy what I just did, and I am going to paste it in the phone. Right here. Okay, now I want my phone, I'm going to keep it a consistent 380. Okay, so let's see how that works. 380. Now what you're going to notice here, that as it gets to the phone size, so I can see if it's really moving. That seems to be a problem. Okay, let's see. Okay, good. So at the phone, the screen is going to be 380, but everything is going to stack. So you can see that what was on the left bar jumps over and is now 100% across, and it stacks. So because this was in the left bar, this is on top, then comes the content, and then comes the right bar, and then the footer. Looks like we need to adjust the footer. Let's see. Ooh, looks like we need to do the header, so we need to make that smaller. Let's see, maybe 60 pixels, and this will be 30. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, the header closes up. Good. Okay, now at this size, we probably shouldn't worry about well, we won't worry about that. We're going to get rid of this at the phone size. Okay, so let's take a look. Okay, very good. So everything is growing and shrinking. Now, remember we made that extra background. We made that extra background so that at 480, the left bar comes out another column, and then this is going to grow the entire, and then whatever's in the right is going to go underneath. This is what we got to do. The first thing we've got to do is, and I want you maybe just watch this time and see if you can get the concept. When everything is working on the large screen, this is fluid 3, this is fluid 6, and this is fluid 3. Well, when it gets to be the iPad, this has to be the size what is normally fluid 4. And this will be fluid 8, and this will be fluid 8. Okay, so watch. I'm going to go back to my styles, and I'm going to find all those percentages that make the fluids work. Okay, here they are. So right now, that left bar is fluid 3, so it's 25%. But we want it to be 1/3 to go over 4 columns. So let's grab this fluid 4. We're going to copy it, go over to the media, and at 480, we're going to make it so that fluid 3 is 1/3. Generally, fluid 4 is 1/3, but now at the 480, we want fluid 3 to be 33%, and we want fluid 6 to be fluid 8%. So here we go. I'm going to move this, copy it, I'm going to go over here to my media, and now my fluid 6 is going to be the same as 8 normally is. Okay, so here we go. Watch what happens. I'm going to move this up, and when I refresh it, because CSS is cached, I have 3 columns at 480. I have 2 columns. One column goes over 4, the other column goes over 8, and then I have my column underneath. Now we got to change the background graphic. So we know that generally speaking, in the container, and if you're not getting this, don't freak out. It's just something. Okay, here's a container. I'm going to take this container, put it in the media. I'm going to just put it underneath the container here. Okay, get rid of that extra one here. Okay, so the container at 480 is going to be 480, but the background image is going to be BG 480. Remember we made that one? And we'll get rid of the width. So now we can see that at 480, fluid's going to turn to be a whole third. Fluid 6 is going to turn out to be 2/3. Container is going to be 480, and the background is going to be that 2-column graphic. So let's save that, and you'll see what I mean. There. So you can see that now what used to be only fluid 3 would be 3 columns. Now fluid 3 is 4 columns. And what used to be fluid 6 is now the width of fluid 8. And then what it comes next is what used to be in the right bar is now underneath. It's stacking. And then when we get to the phone. Now if you didn't get that, it's alright. It's pretty obtuse. But basically you're accounting for that extra narrow kind of columns going on. And so now we have, for the most part, things looking pretty darn good at all the media widths that we did. 960, 768, 480, and the phone. Okay, well, but we still have all these widget problems and these button problems. We're going to do that on the next video. We're going to fix that up. It's going to be beautiful.